Hello, everyone, and welcome today, Healing the Wounds and Creating Miracles. And my special guest speaker is Richard Friesen. Did I pronounce your last name right, by the way?
Friesen works.
Friesen. Is it Friesen?
Very good.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I like to pronounce it correctly.
Okay.
Well, Richard works with professionals and business leaders who want to increase their personal effectiveness with joy and grace. His neuroscience-based mind muscles model gives his clients the opportunity to reach their goals with online training, simulations, interactive exercises, group support, and real-time decision processes. Well, Richard has been a future broker for Merrill Lynch, a floor trader on CME, CBOT, and the options floor of the Pacific Exchange, where he built and sold a successful options trading system, a trading firm where he served on the exchange's board of directors. He also founded and built a financial software company and is the inventor of 10 significant trading interface patents. This, combined with his master's degree in clinical psychology, neuro-linguistic programming master's certification, and neuroscience focus, brings a unique framework to business, investing, and career success. His current passion is completing his forthcoming book, Conversations with Money. And this book observes the main character, Joe, who deals with all the conflicts, self-sabotage, and belief systems around money and wealth. Welcome, Richard.
Well, thank you. It is so good to be able to have this conversation with you. And my experience is that conversations, pushback, feedback, out of those conversations, sometimes the best things happen rather than just prepared statements or webinars. So I'm really, really excited about having this conversation, having the back and forth, and seeing what happens.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it too, especially about our topic, conversations with money. So from struggle to a healthy relationship with money. So what is the biggest surprise you have uncovered with your years working with people and money?
Well, what surprised me the most was when I have a new client or somebody joins one of our online courses, one of the things we ask is, okay, we have all your issues. We know what the problems are. So give me a picture of what you would like instead. Tell me about how you are in the new world that you want to be. And then usually they go back and say, well, I have this issue, I have that, I want to solve this. Okay, we have these issues. So tell me about what the future looks like. And the challenge and the surprise is that unless our brains have a pretty clear idea about where we're going, and all the little voices and all the parts of ourselves are on board and don't feel threatened, it's very difficult to get there. So what typically happens, and one of the good things about working with traders specifically, is that you can see on a day-by-day basis by their P&L exactly how they are doing in the world. And typically what we get will be, work hard, follow the system, whatever. And then we will stretch ourselves beyond what we're comfortable with, and boom, sabotage. Then we have depression, we have all the self-incriminations, the beating up, and then we get back to working again and we do this. And as you well know, and probably most of your audience knows, that most lottery winners, or at least many of them, return to their original financial condition, a few years afterwards. Sports stars who's made hundreds and tens of millions of dollars often retire broke. And this is
Wow.
because of our internal set scores. So the biggest surprise for me when I started was, well, as a therapist, what I'm going to do is take all my trading knowledge and all my psychology, and we're going to solve these problems. And really what my emphasis now is creating the world that we want. And as we do this, we trigger all sorts of survival mechanisms that say, wait a minute, hold it here. Can we survive this? And I could give you even personal stories about myself. We don't have time to go into it all, but where I specifically chose people around me that will trigger my survival mechanisms that don't serve me, because I know that I can survive X, right? I know it. I've done it all my life. I've done it since I was 5. But give me why? Oh my God. Even if it's better, I don't know if I can survive. So we all want to stay in the struggle. And that's what really
Yeah.
surprised me most, is
Mhm.
giving people the vision and the safety to step out of that struggle.
Wow. That's beautiful. What's your personal story, Richard, about money and limitations?
Oh my gosh. It was it was April of way back when, 1995. I had been trading on my own after I left a large arbitrage firm. And I woke up in the middle of the night. There was a voice that said, "Rich, you're only worth 200,000 a year." And I could hear that voice as clearly as you can hear mine now. And I
Mhm.
looked around. My
Wow.
wife was sleeping beside me. There was nobody else in the room. So I got up, dressed, went down to the exchange floor, which I normally do. And I got there so early, the doors were still closed. So I sat on the concrete and waited for the doors to the exchange to open. A little background is that when I left the large firm with hundreds of millions of dollars in assets and went on my own, I had to be very careful. The first year I made 125, then 150, 175. But for 3 years after that, I made 200,000 and that was it. Just flat. And so that voice in the middle of the night reflected that internal limit. So I got to the floor when they opened up, and I stepped into the best spot in the floor. Now, you got to understand, on the floor, you don't own a spot. It's usually uh, owned by the biggest bully, or the person with the most capital, or the riskiest person, or the guy who is able to manage the crowd. But I stepped into that spot. So the guy who normally stands there, he chatted with me before the opening. When the bell went off, he kind of just tapped my shoulder, because that was his spot, right? Okay, my spot. And I didn't move. And when the bell went off, I yelled, I screamed, I bought and sold everything rather than being so careful. And I went on to
Mhm.
make 650,000 that year and more after that. But what it was, there was a voice that said, "Rich, you're only worth $200,000." And I could go back and see all these beliefs about myself, all the burdens that I carried. And at some point, I was just done with it. So what I find as a coach in many people is they have that internal limitation. And if we can find it, and we can find the voice that supported it, or the voices that support it, then we can decide to make an invitation to move beyond it. I was lucky enough that it just happened, but I think we can do those things intentionally.
Yes, yes, I agree with you. Agree with you wholeheartedly. Because limitations, they could really weigh us down. And I've had to work on some of my own limitations and still doing so. So what you have to offer us
It's a
today
never
is
ending
valuable.
process.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I have you on today to help us with this issue.
Yeah.
So,
Well, go ahead.
oh, no, please share.
No, I was just going to say, probably leads us into another one, but if we can, accept our limitations, or accept um, our processes that we have, right after being aware of them, that's really important, is that self-acceptance, rather than fighting each other. If there's one word that, if you asked me to describe my coaching process, it would be rapport.
Yes.
Rapport with ourselves and rapport with the world. So, and that includes a lot of self-acceptance, and that is a huge step for many people.
Yes. Yes, it is. Well, how can your family belief systems impact your financial situation?
Well, again, let me go back to trading, because it has so clear parameters, but it is true for entrepreneurs, for business people, for people in careers. For example, after I started making money, I started building a trading firm, hiring more traders. And I had a process of trading that just made money. You just followed the process and you made money. But some traders, they would go up and then they would just go flat. So I was fortunate enough that my sister Wendy was a newly minted hypnotherapist way back then. And
Mhm.
so she looked at the traders that weren't progressing. And so what we discovered is that in one of them, uh, the, the trader so respected his father that if he made more than his dad, it would be a matter of disrespect. It would be like, Dad, you work so hard and I'm making money so easily that it would, I'm not sure of the word, but it would like say you wasted your life or that you worked too hard or something. It would be disrespect. So he got
Wow.
to the amount his dad made and then he couldn't make more. Another
Wow.
trader grew up in West Virginia, uh, dirt poor poverty, newspapers on the wall for wallpaper. I mean, just really dirt poor. But he was really smart and really motivated. But when he started getting multiple zeros in his bank account, for him, the message was, you're not part of your family anymore. And he had a very tight knit family. And so as a result, he just couldn't make more money for fear of uh, just being thrown out of his family or not being able to have that connection. Another one, the let me see, he was his brother was severely handicapped from birth, and if he made money, his mother, who he always had a conflict with because his younger brother always got more attention because of
Excuse
the physical handicaps, that his mother would come after him for money to help take care of his little brother. And emotionally, that was so conflicting to him that he solved the problem by just making just enough under the threshold where his mom wouldn't come after him. So our family dynamics, how we define money, how we define wealth. I mean, if you listen to your father's voice, especially, what I found is the father's voice is really important around money. I don't know why, but it seems to be more important than mom's. But if you listen to his voice around money, like it's evil or it's hard to get, or they'll take it away from you, or somebody's going to screw you over, or whatever it is, these voices get implanted even on a subconscious level. And
me.
even though we're more sophisticated, sometimes those voices still work to sabotage us.
Yes, yes. I had a thought when you mentioned that. Mine that I grew up with, and many have. Money doesn't grow on trees.
Oh, yeah.
So, well, we don't have a money tree, so I guess we don't have any money. So that's a big
That's
one.
right. Or if you look at my grandparents grew up in the Depression, working three
Ah,
jobs,
yes.
9 kids. My dad reports having large sandwiches, to eat. Man, for my dad, that message was, we're desperate to survive. And as a result, he worked 3 jobs for most of his life, still trying to survive, even though he didn't need to. But that process of survival was so important to him, he couldn't quit.
Wow. Yeah. And many still do that today, unfortunately. So hopefully we can help
Yes.
them have a big turnaround. Well, can trauma sabotage our success too?
Oh, well, as you know, and this is where your expertise, and maybe you can even make, comments on it. But in my current model, the earlier the trauma, the more devastating the trauma, the more
True.
its tentacles grow in our brain and affect more and more and more stuff, so that we actually build on that trauma. And
Wow.
what I have seen is from my major hedge fund managers or money managers, is that early in trauma creates an imprint, and that imprint then replicates. And sometimes it's really a challenge to get down to what that trauma is. And surviving that trauma, we know we can survive it. So, unbelievable as it is, sometimes we repeat that trauma in our lives to uh, fortify our survivability around it. And in my own life, I have some experiences where, you know, early on, my mom was depressed. No kindness from her. I don't remember one. Well, I remember one kindness from my mom, right? So I have caught myself creating relationships that repeat that same pattern so that I can survive the trauma. Wow, I survived. But give me another situation. Wait a minute. My survival mechanism says, we know we can survive the trauma, but can we survive something better? I don't know.
Yes.
That I know most people don't believe me, but that's my experience with clients over and over again.
Yes. Yeah. I agree with you, Richard. There's um, why I find it very important to um, tackle the childhood abuse wounds, and from experience and through years of learning, those childhood abuse wounds, whatever level it is, has and needs to be healed and cleared to move forward and get to a point of where we need to
Oh
be
yeah,
so that we can be and
yeah.
do and receive and have.
Oh
And
yeah. I have taken clients back to 5 years old when they're hiding. I'm gonna feel the emotion now.
wow.
Hiding under the bed when dad comes home drunk,
Mm,
waiting to be beaten.
wow.
And we take them back to that stage. And I think about this poor little child who didn't have many options in his life. And they shut themselves down emotionally in order to survive.
Hmm.
And that's the best option they had now. And even though that's not the case now, and they're fully grown adults, there's still that little boy under the bed inside.
Yes. Wow. And like you said, these things we grow up with, and they sabotage our beliefs and our goals and our desires.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
So if we can say, okay, these are parts of myself. In my current model, in my current way of thinking, and by the way, I always say my current way of thinking because I used to believe things were true. And it turns out I have new beliefs, new beliefs. Well, wait a minute. Why just not say my current way of thinking?
I like
Is
that.
that if I introduce my clients to saying these are neural connections in your brain, just like you don't think about typing. When I type, I don't think about pressing the J with that finger. We just go because they're automated. So if we have an automated process in our brain around fear of dad beating us or whatever it is, and it gets triggered, we can, one choice is to say, I'm morally deficient, I'm not disciplined, I should get rid of it. We can judge ourselves. But if we say, oh, this is just an old neural circuit that no longer serves me, we don't have to judge ourselves, we don't have to beat ourselves up, and we can say, okay, let me listen to this old process. Let me see what it has to say. What are its fears? And now, once we can be aware of it, we can accept it. We can now say, okay, can we upgrade this process? Can we look for other options? Can we look for other ways to survive or to thrive? Now, all of a sudden, we go from fighting this part or letting it dominate our lives to rapport with all parts of ourselves.
Wow. Wow. What new cultural burdens do young people have to bear?
Yeah, so different. We look at the Depression era and the burdens there of there's not enough. We have to struggle. To my parents who, said, okay, we're not going to let that happen. We're going to just keep working and making money so we don't have to go back to it. To my generation, which has a bit of that depression, but has the hard work ethic. These are generalizations that are not, just generalizations, not true of everybody. In fact, maybe true of nobody. To this generation that's grown up fairly comfortably for the most part, and of course there's exceptions, and they look back and there's a shift to wanting to more universality, to being more connected to everybody. There's more spirituality, movement to higher levels of spirituality, and as a result, individual thriving, doing well, and wealth. Those concepts often conflict with our need for justice and equal outcomes and so forth. So we have a conflict between success and wealth and a culture that looks upon it. And if we add that to, what you mentioned earlier, money doesn't grow on trees and family contradictions, we've got all these voices. And, most people I run into are really, really good people. They have good hearts. They want others to do well. And we have all these internal conflicts, especially culturally now, where we have a lot more divisiveness. So how do we bring these all together? And you know, that's the big question. And how do we heal? And I so appreciate what you're contributing to the process of healing. And I just think if enough people like you stand up and do that, uh, different points of view, different methodologies, different ways of looking at the world, my gosh, if we all contribute enough, it will make a major shift.
Yes. Yeah, that's so important. You mentioned a couple times about rapport, and I wanted to bring that up one more time about what can anyone do who wants to increase their rapport with money?
Well, what I do is well, first of all, let's step back a minute, rapport with ourselves. And that I have the golden keys, and that is first awareness of all those voices or parts or traumas. Second is acceptance. What if we could just accept ourselves without judgment the way we are? And the third, we can say, so now what do I want? And we can create a new future for ourselves. So there's rapport with ourselves. Without that, it's very difficult to gain rapport with others or money or wealth. But once we have rapport with ourselves, then we can do rapport with money. I'm writing a book called Conversations with Money, where Joe, the character, actually has a conversation with this character, Money. And the book is about his struggles and gaining rapport with money. And an exercise, um, gosh, maybe I'll add that. I was going to give them a bonus, but maybe I'll add that exercise where you actually have a conversation with money. There's 3 chairs, there's 3 different positions, and it's the start of the awareness of, of how we relate to money, and surprisingly enough, how money relates to us. And what happens is when people sit in the money chair and they look back at us, they'll say, and there's a huge variety of responses, but one of them is, I don't want to be too close to you. And the person goes,
Yeah.
what? What's going on here? And what we can do is learn from that is how we repel money by creating an awareness of these voices.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. I can't wait till your book comes out.
Well, if anybody wants to, it's Scott Adams, the Dilbert guy, did a quick review and made some major suggestions. So I'm doing a rewrite, but if anybody wants to help with a rewrite or comment or just help with not so much just the grammatical editing, but with how it impacts you, and so that we can make sure that we're communicating well, they can just send me an email, and I'll talk to them and set them up. So that would be wonderful.
Beautiful. That's great. And I also wanted to let our listeners know that there is a button right below our video, and they can click on it and it'll take them directly to your page for your free gift. And you have a
Okay.
free gift for our audience about an exercise instructions for the golden keys. Would you like to share a
Right.
little bit more about that with us?
Sure. The golden keys, I started out with traders because what would happen is they would trade out of awareness. Um, how much time do we have here?
We still have plenty of time,
Okay.
at least 10
So,
minutes.
okay, great. So I went and visited a trader who was in the Bay Area, and he was trading what's called a simulated account. And that's just paper money. And he was explaining his process, and he was win some trades, lose some trades, going for. And I said, okay, now let's go to the actual live trading with real money. So we changed the interface and went, and right away he leaned forward, jaws clenched, chest tightened. God damn, what are they doing? Look at what they're doing. They took that from me. They took that from me. So There was a complete change. One was open, curious. The other one was tight, closed down. So the set
Mhm.
scores are our physical sensations. What is our breathing like? What's our heart rate? What's our musculature? Then E is for the emotions. How are we feeling? Are we angry? Are we upset? Are we at peace? And T is for thoughts. What is the quality of our thoughts? Are they judgmental? Are they expansive? Are they curious? So what we do is we have exercises that an alarm goes off and you just take your temperature. You take your sensations. I'm leaning forward. Lately, I've started to look at my breath. I set an alarm every 7 minutes and just to check my breath. I thought I was a good deep breather. I thought I was relaxed. No, when I get involved, I tighten down like this. Ooh. So it's reminded me to breathe. So this is to bring awareness of our sensations, emotions, and thoughts. Just awareness, no changes. But I've also going to include a, um, a guided visualization. It's called Space Between Thoughts. And it's just a meditative, relaxing uh, meditation that you can download and you put on your phone. And um, and what it does is that it introduces you to those rare moments. I'm just feeling it right now where there's no voices, there's just a space for a moment, and I just am. And if we can touch that space just occasionally, I mean, this is not a goal where you live, but if you can learn how to touch that space and know how to do it intentionally, then you can bring yourself to it when needed.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm learning more about how important it is, meditation is, and breathing, how important it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we close?
Yeah, there's one thing, what I call certificates of appreciation.
Oh,
And a lot of beliefs are that there's only so much money in the world. There's a number of quotes I have of famous people saying that, and that we need to balance it all out. But in fact, we can all add value to each other's lives. We can add increasing amount of value to others. And if in fact our value is adding value to ourselves and to others, there is not one pie, but there's millions of pies that we can all create. And my way of thinking about this is called certificates of appreciation. When I give you money, whether it's to repair my car or for food at the grocery store, I say thank you. Thank you for all the people who have worked, who have studied, who have gotten PhDs, who are mechanical engineers, the millions of people who have, added value to other people's life in all this complex world. And when I go, it's so easy. I give you money and I say thank you because I receive more value than I'm giving in the money. And so if those people then can say, thank you for your certificates of appreciation. Now, here's the part that most people are going to go, oh my God, what did he
mm,
say? Did he really say that? If you're honest and if you're delivering value to others, the more certificates of appreciation you accumulate, that is, the more money in the bank, the more you are contributing value to others. Now, money isn't the only way to contribute value. We have many people, Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, made tremendous differences in this world without a penny. And that is a choice that everyone can make. But it's also a choice that you can make is to deliver value to others, collect certificates of appreciation, and become really wealthy. And with that wealth, you can now start to invest in the future. If everybody had $20 in their pocket and no more, who is going to plant fruit trees that aren't going to be ripe for another 15 years? Who is going to go to school for 6 years to become an engineer, to learn how to make things better and more efficient and less polluting? Who is going to invest in the future? If we have 20 bucks, I'm going to look for food. So accumulation of wealth moves us from immediacy to taking care of our kids, our grandkids, and our great grandkids. So my advice is, and again, this might shock some people, is to
Mhm.
collect as many of those certificates of appreciation by adding value to others' life as you possibly can.
Wow. I love that. Appreciation. I'm going to start doing that more and
Excellent.
more. So, yeah.
Excellent. I had a client who's going to ask her boss for more money. And when she had the concept of a certificate of appreciation, it changed the conversation and it changed her boss's attitude, because her mental attitude was one of appreciation and what value she was adding, as versus, you're holding money, give it to me.
Wow. This is something the whole entire family can work on and do for each other. Good
Oh,
place to
yes,
start.
absolutely.
Friends.
And friends, and even if it's non-monetary, that
Mhm.
we can add value to other people's lives. And
Yeah.
sometimes that requires knowledge, it requires skills, it acquires creating new beliefs. Sometimes it even is, improving our behaviors, and sometimes who we are as people. And if we can make that shift, that I am here to create value for your life, wow.
Yeah. That's a great thought for us to continually. I'm going to write that down, hang it up on my wall. That's something that we should
Okay.
always strive to think about every day.
Yeah. So here's another
We
piece of
need
good
it today.
news. You
Mhm.
don't have to strive, because as soon as you start striving, you're creating an internal conflict. But how
Oh,
about try the language? What does it feel to be invited to step into the space of adding value to others? Wow, no more striving, just stepping into a space that feels better, honors your values, and gets you to your goals.
yes. Yeah. Wow. I love that. Thank you, Richard. I could go on and on, but I know
We
you,
could, and maybe
a
let's do it
family.
again.
Yes, that would be wonderful. I look forward to that. And I just want to remind our audience, remember Richard's free gift for you is the golden keys: awareness, acceptance, and action. And just click
Yep,
on the link below and you'll be directed for that new gift. Thank you so
we
much.
will. And I look forward to hearing from anybody who wants to further the discussion. And I so appreciate what you're doing for the world and yourself, and the invitation to be here. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's an honor to have you. I'm looking forward to having you again. And I appreciate the wonderful work that you're doing. Thank you also.
My pleasure.
So everyone take care and we will see you again soon. Bye for now. There's my little button.
Ah.
We could breathe. I know it's still recording. So ciao for now. Thank you again, Richard.